Wooside. Welcome to Orange is the New Black, a podcast with myself as well as my co-host Zim Hude. Zim, tough loss. I think we're both kind of down. Hude Nation is kind of down. But what were your thoughts on that game? Let's get the instant reaction.
Welcome, everybody. Glad y'all could join us. It's so many things to say. I don't want to be like super long-winded on all these different thoughts, but there are some very big key plays that stick out to me. But people that follow me know that I'm not even paying attention to Randy Bullock. That's like if people want to limit the game to like Randy Bullock or whatever, like I'm not that guy. I'm so far from blame the referee guy too. I will say this though, that is a big. Let me just go straight into the biggest parts of the game. The biggest things in the whole entire game is the fact that John Ross missed the touchdown where he should have laid out for it. That's the first one. The second one is perhaps the overthrow to AJ Green following right after it. However you want to couple those two. The next one is then Joe Burrow's interception. That's the only rookie mistake after I praised him the whole entire game for not making mistakes. The biggest play of the whole entire game is the Joe Mixon fumble. And not only because of the Joe Mixon fumble itself, the act in itself is the actual fact that the Chargers went and did what the Bengals should have been doing all entire game, capitalizing on the other team's, mistakes. And then when we get to the end of the game, I guess we'll probably have a lot of people that go back and forth. But to me, if we're talking about changing the culture, if it's really New Day, if it's really all of these great things, you just gotta play to win. You have to play to win. And for me, I know that the numbers and everything might not say that or support this, but from the 12-yard line, 7 seconds left, I really trust Joe Burrow to do the right thing in that instance. And I don't trust Randy Bullock. I also think that was a great teaching model. If we're looking at this thing in a whole in a whole big vacuum or whatever, that's a great teaching tool to tell everybody to say, look, we're not to be fucked with this year. This is how we going. This is how we playing. If we lose this game right now, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go take this victory right now. And you could tell me about like, oh, well, they got to kick a field goal. And then I honestly, my heart of hearts, I felt like they would have lost in the overtime if they would have went that route. But for me, I know it's not conditional, but it would have sent this great message to everybody. Like, Joe, we trust you. You're the man. You're going to do exactly what you want. When he scrambled and he got the touchdown, that was him. That was him audible into that call. So we're trusting you fully. You got the keys to the we made you a captain. We're going to give you the ball with 7 seconds left from the 12-yard line. And I trust that you're going to throw the ball up and it's going to be maybe a second left on the clock. And if it's not, I trust that you're going to make the best throw that you can, or you're going to scramble to go get a touchdown and go get us this victory right now. And if not, we're going to walk around that locker room and we're all going to say, God damn, they are not scared. And here we come. Now, I don't think that they'll look at Joe Burrow or Zach and say, oh, man, you didn't trust us. You didn't kick the field goal. I'm not saying that, but I just think it would have set the tone for the season. Those are like all that other stuff in the game we could talk about all day. I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll point out some stuff, but those are the biggest factors that just stood out to me. The Joe Mixon fumble is just like that was a backbreaker because they got the points right after it.
Yeah, I think you said a lot of great points there. There were definitely key moments in that game that really shifted the momentum. But I think, like you said, you can't really, as much as I look at it and I get frustrated on the offensive pass interference call, because like that was just the storybook way to really start Joe Burrow's career. Like AJ Green coming back from 2 years essentially off, making that play at the end there on Casey Hayward. I mean, you couldn't write a better chapter to begin Joe Burrow's career really outside of that. But one thing that I will say is, although I'm upset about the way things ended, there were so many good things to really take away from this game. And I'm not trying to be like just Mr. Optimistic, but the first thing that sticks out of my mind, the defense. Like, I don't know if it was just similar to what happened last season where we opened up sharp against the Seahawks, But that defense, your man Akeem Davis Gaither, like just certain things, like Jesse Bates flashed a lot in that game. Jesse Bates was taking heads off the entire game. Darius Phillips. Some people were trying to get on him on Twitter. A lot of those were push-offs from Mike Williams. Like Mike Williams didn't really do anything. William Jackson III shut Keenan Allen. Did Keenan Allen play today? Because I don't like he barely did anything. William Jackson III shut down him. And
he had 2 catches for 23, and then at the end, I think he threw another one on that last drive, and I don't know what he ended up with, maybe 40, 50 yards or something.
Which is trash.
He shut him down, though. He shut him down.
Complete trash. And then he also shut down Mike Williams. I mean, Jermaine Pratt, Josh Bonds, DJ Reader. Like, to be honest, if that was another turning point in the game was when DJ Reader cramped up and went out the game, you immediately saw like the difference in the run defense versus when he was in. And then you forget that Geno Atkins didn't play. And then you forget that Trey Waynes didn't play. And then you think about how all of these guys played. And then in the first half, of course, we all were like, get Bobby Hart out of there. No one talked about Bobby Hart in the second half. Look at how much better the offensive line played in the second half versus the first half. Joey had time to throw. He could step up in the pocket. Like, we heard about Joey Bosa the whole first half. I didn't hear anything about Joey Bosa in the second half. Like, the other thing that was so smart that Joe Burrow did as a rookie, he kept the 5 wide going, and he kept Joey Bosa on the sideline. I'm like looking, and I'm like, oh, they had the wrong package out there. And Joey Bosa's just sitting on the sideline. So, like, all of that stuff really combined from what I saw. There were a lot of things that I actually liked. I think the defense is back. I think Joe Burrow, that was a great game for his first game ever. And I think that the future is bright. Yeah, we wanted to win. That would be the extra cherry on top. But when you really look at this was a game that the Bengals kind of lost. Like, the Chargers don't feel like they won that game. You look at Anthony Lynn's, like, press conference after the game. He doesn't feel like they won that game. The better team today was the Bengals, and the future is, in my opinion, very bright. Zim, did you have any other thoughts?
I agree with everything you said. You know, it's just, I will say this. You're going to lose games, you know. You're going to lose games, but some of the things that I watched, even in games like, I watched a lot of football. I love the fact that they played at 4 because it gave me a chance to watch a lot of different games. A lot of games like the Colts game was so frustrating to me or whatever because Phillip Rivers was getting all these yards, but they didn't capitalize on their opportunities. So it let me know, like, that's who they are. Right. You know, the Redskins game. Haskins, I kept on saying, like, Haskins isn't really doing much, but he managed the game. He got him fired up at halftime, came out, scored 24 unanswered. You could see the leadership out there on the field. But more importantly, he didn't have to go crazy to win. He let the defense like take over. They did their thing. But the difference was when the opportunity presented itself, good teams go get it. And that's the part that scares me about being super optimistic about it. Because if next week, you know, like, from a roster standpoint, don't get it fooled. Don't get it twisted. The Browns got their ass whooped by the Ravens, but their roster is a lot better than the Chargers roster. So if we're like, you know what I'm saying? So there were points in that game today, even when we were going to halftime, a good team that would have been 7-3. They gave them the 3 right before the half. Like, good teams don't. I told people in my live, like, shout out to everybody that came to my live. I had the most craziest live that I think I may have ever had. Like, over 3,000 people.
It was like 400 people in there at one point when I jumped in. Like
600. I got screenshots. Yeah. Like, we got 650, 700 people in there. Everybody's going crazy. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I always talk about it with you. That is the one. I told my wife, I said, man, that is the one thing I love to do because it's like, it's very interesting to like try to entertain, shut up, watch the game. It's just really cool. But it's just so many different things that are so like when somebody says like that bungle stuff that makes me want to punch them in their face because I hate when somebody says that. these are the characteristics of losing a game, is these type of things. So while I am really, really happy for a lot of different things.
Right.
Geno wasn't there. The defense, I kept on telling everybody, I said when we got into the halftime and it was 7-6, I told Eric, I don't care what the defense did. If the Chargers came out and put 40 on us in the second half, I'd have blamed the offense. I'm just that type of guy because they did everything that they had to do in the first half of that football. The Bengals had to put 14, 16 points somewhere around that in that first half of that game, and that game is over. Tyrod Taylor could not do anything on third down. Do you think that if they were playing from behind and they had to catch up with us, that Tyrod probably was like 0 for 10 on third down? He had no business. Like, and I'm talking trash to Chargers fans, like saying like, yeah, like y'all should probably put Herbert in. You know what I mean? Like, start your path because you're going nowhere with that guy. That's see me watching that. I was looking at. I'm like, that's Andy Dalton right there. You know, like every single time, whenever he took the field, it's like it was so predictable. I knew exactly what they were going to do. I know the only thing that he has is he could try to run. But the biggest difference that I did like from our defense is you pointed out Akeem Davis-Gaither, Jesse Bates flying around. You can't just scramble and just do what you want and be at above average quarterback. Like the Josh Allens of the world, the Gardner Minshews that beat us in these clutch moments last year or whatever, they don't go win that game. They might win it because we're fumbling the ball and giving it to them or something like that, but they're not going to go and win it. And Tyrod Taylor he fits the mold. That's why I say I just look at quarterbacks. If you look at that game like just in a vacuum, like there's no reason the Bengals should have lost that game. And it reminds me of everything we said in the opening game of Seattle last year. And that's the problem. That it's kind of scary to me. And that's where the most pessimistic Bengals fan probably looks at it and says, yeah, same old Bengals, you know what I mean? And they're right. You know, like it's hard for me to be really, really positive on a lot of stuff because the same stuff veered his head. I love the halftime adjustments. I love the defense. The margin between winning and losing in the NFL is so small that you cannot just do 20 good things good and then have 4 things bad. You could have 20 good things go good and have maybe 1 or 2 things go bad, like the Chargers did. And what happened? And they got lucky on the fumble. They got lucky on the offensive pass interference thing. Like when you keep the margin really close like that for average teams, that like Chargers are 7-9. The Bengals could be 7-9. But if you win a game like that, you're 9-7, and that's the difference. Like I know that the Bengals can't. Me watching it, they can't compete with the Ravens. They can't compete with the Chiefs. I saw that today. Like. You cannot play the first half of offense. You can't play the first or second half of offense and rely on Joe Burrow to just walk you down the field and think you can make a living off a season like that. When you go against teams that score 28 points, like I'm saying every week, they're going to blow the doors off of you. But you could get into the playoffs, but you got to win games like that, and you can't be scared to lose. So that's why I'm really hard on like Zach. I said this season, I'm looking at Zach because whether the analytics support it or not, you gotta go get that win. And I said that, like I put up the clip, I got everything, I put it on Twitter and everything. I said it before he came out there. You lost before Randy went out there. I didn't even look at the kick. I don't care about the kick. You lost by sending them out there. The fan base wants us to go get it. They're tired of like mediocrity. I'm tired of talking about who was hurt and ref calls and all that stuff like that. Patriots fans don't care about that stuff. Steelers fans don't care about that stuff. They cry about it like momentarily or whatever like that, but they'll never tell you that's why they didn't go to the playoffs or they didn't go to, they're just like, we're coming back and we're going to win every time. I want our fan base to have that same mentality that we're going to go get our wins. I don't ever want to try to send us to overtime and hope that we can screech out a victory on a game that we had in the palm of our hand. And that's my philosophy. It might be wrong sometimes, but I bet you they would have walked around that damn. I bet you they would walk around that damn locker room instead of Joe Burrow walking around today and say, "Everybody pick up your head." And Randy Bullocks got to go and do a stupid interview on how he pulled a hamstring. We're not even talking about that. They're going to be talking about how gutsy of a call that was. Like when we win it, because I honestly think they would have won it. The Chargers couldn't stop them.
Right.
They couldn't stop them. I really think they would have won it. And even if they didn't, it would have set the tone. They would have took that same energy and ran right back out there on Thursday night and kicked the Browns' ass. I swear they would have.
That's facts. I have to agree with a lot of what you said. Like, we can't just be optimistic about the game. Like you said, they should have, with the game on the line, how things were going, they should have went for the win. Thank you, Delta Kilo, for the donation. Definitely go for the win. Go for the win. I mean, if Andy Reid's in that situation, if Bill Belichick's in that situation, if Sean Payton is in that situation, they're going for the win. Like, you can't go with the Marvin play there and not go for the win. So like you said, they definitely needed to go for the win, and I think they needed to be a lot more aggressive and take some chances, and definitely, like you said, score more points. Now, hopefully those points come. I really loved what they did with the 5 wide. I would like to see more of that, but we've got to put up more points. Like Zim is saying, you can't win games in the NFL by scoring 15, 16 points. That just doesn't happen. You have to score 28.
You can only be average teams. You can only be average teams like that. The cream of the crop in the NFL, the teams that we're going to have to play, like, it's not going to work. You're going to find yourself down 14-3 early, right? And then what happens? Joe Burrow's now got to go into passing situations all game. And then that lead just blows up on you real quick. You got to play with a lead. You get a 10-point lead on an average team like that, they wouldn't have been able to do that. Lawson would have had 3 sacks. Now the defense looks unstoppable. It's a domino effect. And when you go watch other teams, you'll see what I'm saying. Like, the good teams, they get out on you real quick. They take all of that, whatever you had, and throw it out the window. And the really, really good teams, even if they have a close game, they still get it at the end, just like Joe Burrow would have did it today. And that's the difference. There's a lot of people in the crowd, like, I mean, in the thing saying, "Oh, our damn kicker." I get it, but I guess my expectations are lower. Did you think that Randy Bullock was going to come out there and hit that field goal? I thought he would.
Nah, I think, to be honest with you, I thought he was going to miss the 50-yarder. And that's the thing that people have to take too. You got to remember he hit that 50-yarder. Right, so the Bengals aren't even in position to do that at the end if he doesn't make that. And I'm not trying to be a scapegoat or anything, but you got to take that into account, because when he came up for the 50-yarder, I would love to see how many people in here thought he was going to make that, because I didn't. I'm not going to lie to you. I was surprised when he made the 50-yarder, to be honest with you. But for me, I was with Zim and with everybody. I felt like they should have gone for the victory, especially when you get it down to the 2-yard line. I'm just surprised that they didn't go with like a QB sneak or something like that, being that they used it so many times earlier in the game. I thought that they were going to just go for the win. But the one thing
the penalty pushed them back to the 12, though.
Right, when they got the penalty. But when they were at the 2, I would have probably have just tried to run it in or something like that. But we didn't have timeout.
They had no timeout.
We didn't have timeout. So it's hard to do that. And the other thing that I didn't like, so let me talk about some other things I didn't like in the game. Right. And I understand Joe Burrow's a rookie, this and that. Cool, whatever. I didn't like, I think earlier in the game, before Joey Bosa got his first sack on him, he like went up to Joe Burrow like when he had almost gotten to him, and he like hit him like in the head. And I was like, if that's any other quarterback, that's a flag. And like they didn't call anything on that. He had another play where he hit Joe Burrow before he released it. And like AJ Green looked at the ref and was like, are we gonna throw a flag? To me, that stuff isn't acceptable no matter, who it is. If we hit their quarterback like that, if he hit Tyrod like that, I would expect them to throw a flag. I didn't like that. The other thing I didn't like too is at the end of the game while they were driving with 5 wide, when they were making these completions and I was getting excited, the Chargers players were purposely like laying on top of our players to like waste time.
Right, right.
There was nothing being done about that.
I saw that. I was like, they're not gonna call delay again. I saw that a couple times. I thought that was strange. The one thing on that same drive you talking about that I thought was super underrated is the fact that Ross got that first down, right? And I know he bobbled and it was an incomplete pass, right?
Right.
They ran that next play.
They really did.
That ball was snapped before the ref blew the whistle. Like I kept on yelling, like, play the replay on that joint. Like, but they snapped the ball for the next play. So it's null and void. Did. Like we're on to the next one. Like they were halfway through. They were like 5 seconds into the next
the play. It had already been snapped. Like that was any other game, that's a snap, bro. Like it's too late. That was big, yeah. It really makes me upset with the refs because There were so many things.
Mike Williams did that same crap all game.
My God, he did it all game, bro.
The same thing. See, I think a lot of people will have a. This is where I do talk about refs. If we're going to call it one way, let's call it the same way. I just really don't like harping on refs at all. But you did bring up a good point. But the Mike Williams thing, like he did like Darius Phillips, like people got to understand. Darius Phillips was with him stride for stride on all of those routes. That's the same thing. I said before the game started, I said they're going to pick on him all game long. He's the young corner. You're not going to go test William Jackson. When you did go test William Jackson, he wasn't playing with him. So, of course, they're going to go against him all game. So, it's a numbers game. You get 10 targets towards Mike Williams. He only came down with like 3 or 4 of them ones. He had the one big one, but he pushed off on every single one of them. And was it a big push off? No, but it wasn't enough to make me be like, hey, rough call. You know what I'm saying? Right. But at the same time, at the end of the game, that same thing, you can't call that right there.
You can't call that.
You can't call that right there. Like you just can't. You can't call that both ways. Like even if the Chargers would have did that and it would have been the opposite way, you cannot call that. Not right there with 7 seconds left in the game. It has to be a violent push off for you to call it.
He has to fall on the ground. The defender has to like get pushed. Like almost when you really look at it, I got to look at it again. It almost looks like Casey Hayward like does the NFL equivalent of a flop. As soon as AJ like touches him, he like does this whole like acting thing to make it look way more of a push off than it was. I still have to check that, but I remember watching it and I was like, that looked like he flopped. Like that didn't even look like AJ really like pushed him hard.
AJ said this after the game in the press conference. He said, bro, he clamped me the whole time. Like not like good clamps. Like he's clamping me into the break of his route. Like when he go because he's playing to make sure that AJ doesn't go to the back of the end zone. So his footwork was off in that in itself. So when AJ goes to break to the pylon, you could go watch it. He holds him. Is it a big hold? No, it's an NFL hold. So at the same time, AJ's like, yeah, they could have. If they're gonna do that, they got to call it both ways on that.
Just
same
like
play.
that phantom hold they did on Darius Phillips. It was like, oh, it wasn't even when like they were like, oh, it wasn't pass interference, but it was a hold in like before that. Like that was a major play. Like that. I don't know, bro. Like the refs to me, I'm with you. I don't like to jump on the refs, but it was not being called the same way both ways. It was a lot of like craziness kind of going on.
This is the question that I ask all fans. And if you're in the comments right now, you're talking like this, close your eyes and ask yourself this. If you won that football game today, what calls would you have been thinking about even still in a win? Right? Because like, it's easy to think about every single thing that didn't go your way when you lose.
Right.
But some of the stuff, like I just sit back and I think even if we would have won that game, I probably wouldn't have thought about the Darius Phillips shit. I would have just charged it to the game. There's a couple of different things that I charged to the game. In the AJ Green thing, whatnot, it's just really tough. Like I don't feel like throughout the game that it was so lopsided or anything like that. Like there were a couple times where I think the guy 71, he drew our offensive lineman offsides or something like that, and they called it the other way. And I thought that had stood out at the time, but it wasn't anything that I felt like this is the reason we lost the game. So that's how I look at like referees and officiating and stuff like that. Of course, the microscope is on the AJ Green play because it's potentially the game-winning touchdown, which it should have been. But throughout the game, I don't feel like I was wronged or anything. The reason why I felt like I wanted to bring some the microscope to that is because Mike Williams did it the whole entire game and it wasn't called. So you we gotta look at it like in both ways. But for the most part, now I feel like the Bengals just. On one part of me, people are going to say, well, why did they do this? Why did they? Because you lost, right? But had you won, I think you would have walked away and said, Joe Burrow managed the game the way he should have been. He didn't make any big mistakes up into that interception that he made, where he's got to be smart enough to say, hey, look, this screen is not working right here. But for the most part, I thought, they played a pretty sound game on defense. Jesse Bates was looking so good. Josh Barnes, like only time I saw him in a negative is like a couple of times, like going to tight ends like Hunter Henry or whatever, and that was like later in the game. But throughout the game, his intelligence showed up to be able to identify plays, and going into the week 1 of a season, you don't have any film except the stuff from last year. For him to identify, like, he had 3 big impact plays. Sam Hubbard had like 2 really big impact plays, but Jesse Bates all game. If you were going to catch a pass, he was going to get over there, and you were going to get hit for it. I hated the call that they had on him on the helmet.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
But even when that happened, even the one that was down the field, when that one happened, I said in 2020, I just know that the refs, if you go high, the ref's gonna call it all day. It doesn't even matter if it does, because of the impact of it, the way that it looks, they're gonna call that. If you go high, they're gonna call that all day.
So my thoughts, I don't know if people were reacting the same way, but one thing that I wanted to talk about and touch on was AJ Green, the return of AJ Green, with him, not playing for 2 seasons. I personally, like, whenever I watch AJ play, I was happy to see him out there, and it seemed kind of weird that on some plays, like, I think that was those first 2 or 3 series, they were taking him out on 3rd down, which to me, I was like, why are you going to take your best receiver out on 3rd down? But my thoughts on his return was that he played very solid. Like, I heard people saying some weird stuff during the game on Twitter, like, oh, he looks hurt, he looks slow, this and that. I didn't get that. Did you get that? Because I didn't get that. I didn't get that. That looks like
what are y'all talking about? He was an animal. You remember that 10-yard out joint that he snatched from dude?
It was nasty.
It was an animal. There's only like 15 wide receivers in the NFL that can catch that.
Right.
On everything. He was lit, bro. The only fans gotta make sure y'all watch other football games. That is my challenge that I tell everybody else. This is another thing that's going to happen to us all year, and it's going to drive me crazy. Watch what I tell you. There's so many players on this team that should get the ball. And I agree with you. You play AJ all day. I think they had him on a snap count, though, is my theory.
Right.
But there's so many players that every game we're going to walk away. Like, everybody was hitting me and said, why they ain't throw it to Higgins? Right. Where was Auden Tate? Every game. Do y'all realize, like, imagine the Chargers doing that, right? They could have schemed up more stuff for Keenan Allen. They went to Mike Williams. They went to Hunter Henry. And then Austin Eckler. Who else do they have to throw it to? We literally have like 9 dudes that we all know would start for any team in the NFL. So every single game you're going to walk away and say, why didn't he get – the one thing I did say is that Joe Mixon should have got way more targets in the passing game. I think him getting targets in the passing game, and not just toss sweeps, like just whether it be check downs or whatever, just him in open field just to get his legs turning. Because by the time we got to the 4th quarter, he started to find a groove and stuff. I think you do him a disservice by getting him off the field. I know you want to get Gio involved, right? But I don't think anyone would mind if you win a game and Joe Mixon comes out with 3-4 catches for 40 yards and he runs for 80, 90 yards or something. You say, damn, he went for over 100 all purpose. Like, you really got to get Mixon involved in the passing game to even warrant the money that you're paying him. You're paying him that type of to be that guy, like that kind of guy. But aside from that, I feel like Joe Burrow is going to always get the ball to whoever's open. Because, I mean, for a while, he got Uzomah hot on that last drive. Uzomah had some big plays in there. And it's just this thing we're going to walk away from every week, and we're going to say, damn. Like, because the whole first half, Tyler Boyd didn't even have a target.
At all. Yeah, he didn't. I was wondering what was going on.
I was pissed. On 3rd down, the first drive of the game, if anybody was in my life, I was going nuts because I was pissed that Mike Thomas was in there and that Joe Burrow wasn't even looking. I said, that's your guy, Joe. Like, on 3rd down?
Right.
They can't stop you. They can't stop him. Like, it sounds so simple. They can't stop our one-on-one matchups, bro. Like, there is nobody. Like, the Chargers could not blitz. You cannot blitz the Bengals, bro. Like, you cannot blitz them. And if you do, you better get there. Because John Ross taking it house. AJ Green taking it house. Like, Boyd taking it. Like, everybody taking it house. Like, you can't.
We got to talk about.
Like, think about, like, all these. Like, every time we go play somebody, like, go look at the Browns when we played them this week. Once you do what you got to do with Landry, make sure, like, OBJ, like, if he don't get his targets in the first half, he going to take himself out the game. After that, DeMarcus Lodge or something. I was watching some of their Browns game. I'm like, this is like, if you go look at these national pundits telling you that their wide receiver cores are better than the Bengals, I'm like, where are the guys? Like, you could literally like go to a fantasy football on any of these teams and say, well, I know I'm gonna give Keenan Allen 6 to 10 targets every single game. I'm gonna give Mike Williams, I'm gonna give him 6 to 10 targets every single game. The Bengals, you don't know. It's too many guys. Like Sample got to catch early on. You got Geo coming out the back. You got Mixon coming out. So it's just like there's going to be a lot of people that's going to come to you all year telling you about how they should have got the ball to this person. They got to Mixon got his 20 carries. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's tough because the small mistakes, they just continue to rear their head, and I'm a little bit frustrated with that. Even though I'm optimistic, I know every week they're going to build on it, and get better and better. They're going to trust Joe Burrow more and more. And I know that you can't put too much on Joe Burrow's plate. You know, week one, you know, like I don't want them just throwing it. But one thing I thought they should have did early on in the game was throw the ball on first down, throw the ball on second down, so that you're not putting Joe Burrow in these very, very predictable long third down situations. Joey Bosa was eating off of the strength of I'm 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. We had 3 straight 3-and-outs with our offensive line. That's the same Achilles heel that hit Dalton. You got to get out of that and keep defenses often. I mean, honest, when they threw the thing to Ross and he missed. And then they came back and they seen AJ Green was wide open and Joe Burrow missed that. You know, after that, San Diego's the Chargers defense was on alert. And if you're doing that early and then you could mix in running on second and possibly run on short third downs, you know. But by putting so much pressure on Joe Burrow in this first year, it's going to be very, very important from a play calling standpoint. They let him unleash on first down. And I know that's not the normal, like you're you know, like that's when the other teams are going to have their personnel that's going to match up with your run game. I just think that's what's going it's a little unorthodox, but throwing on first and second down is going to be so huge for Joe Burrow because it's going to get him into his rhythm, get the motion on, because they cannot win games with this offensive line on third down.
Bobby Hart. We got to talk about Bobby Hart, and we got to talk about the lack of T. Higgins. For me, I was almost like yelling at the screen that they needed to set Bobby Hart down after that first half because it just literally looked like he was going to get Joe Burrow killed. Like the shots that Joe was taking, like Joey Bosa just coming off the edge. I was like, what is it going to take until they put Fred Johnson in? They didn't do it. I thought that they did, but like Twitter literally exploded about Bobby Hart. And I mean, we've seen that in the past, right? Bobby Hart hasn't been that guy, but it was just on full display today that he just wasn't playing his best. Billy Price also came in for Xavier Su'a-Filo. So there was an injury, obviously, that happened. What are your thoughts on like Bobby Hart? Does he deserve to start next game? Like if Myles Garrett early on like is just destroying him, do the Bengals need to look at a Fred Johnson, or is this just what they need to do?
Absolutely, you and me both. I'm not a person that's like really quick to say, bench him. You know, like a lot of people were doing that on the Ross one because I'm really tough on Ross. I was like, lay out for that. You know, lay out for that. Like, even if you don't catch it, lay out for that pass. Bobby Hart, I absolutely sat there and said, there's no way you set the tone right now. Get him out of there. We come out third quarter with Fred Johnson. Like, that was my thinking. I had to take a woosah and think for a second and just breathe because I was like, he's going to get this guy killed. And everything that everybody that doesn't know about this team, I want to prove everybody's wrong, but the only way that they could do it is being very, very smart about some of these things. Don't wait for these problems to happen or to keep on building themselves up. You made the good adjustments at halftime. I don't know what they told Bobby Hart at halftime, but I'm with you. You come out there, you go 2 series out there with the Browns next week, and Myles Garrett, he's watching the tape now, licking his chops. So you come out there and he starts killing Bob. Get him out of there. We're not doing that this year. Get him out of there. We got a guy in here thinking He's like top 10 Chargers defense and stuff like that. If that's a top 10 defense, I think I should win a lot of football games, and I shouldn't be held back by one or two bad people that are just screwing it up. And I mean, and they gotta move, like you gotta move like that. Like that's gotta be like, I'm so sick of like some of this stuff. Like, I don't think it's overreactive to say that, if that was your question. Like, it's just one thing that we cannot tolerate this year. We cannot tolerate proving people wrong, because anybody that doesn't know shit about the Bengals, that's going to be their go-to. Their offensive line, they're going to get Joe Burrow killed. Well, great coaches scheme around it. Great coaches make audibles out of different things and make different calls. Go in the 5 wide, get Bosa off the field, do all these different things to make this thing that we know could happen. We could get them to the playoffs. I learned that today. But you can't give people the game. Like the 3 points that they gave them before the half had me so pissed. And everybody was like, Zim, we're still winning. No. And
they were going to get the ball after half, so that was not good. Like, luckily our defense stopped them to begin the third quarter, else like that would have been more points that we would have been giving them. I totally agree with you. T. Higgins, I saw his mom tweeting. She was saying that we need to throw him the ball. I swear he's going to catch it. I saw an interesting tweet from him after the game that he deleted. I think that the Bengals coaching staff at least should have gotten him in to the point where he was at least targeted once in this game. Like, I don't know if it's that they don't have as much chemistry or what it was, but like to put in, and I don't want to hate on Mike Thomas because Mike Thomas did his thing at the end of the game, right? He made some really big catches, but we got to get at least.
It doesn't matter. So? Higgins can make that. No, I'm agreeing with you. It doesn't matter that Mike Thomas made those catches. Higgins makes that catch. You drafted him at that spot. Fucking 32?
Yeah, 33 basically. Yeah,
33.
Basically 30.
Him. Y'all already know. I mean, for me, get him in there. There's no deficiency in this game. Higgins go to any. This is the thing that kills me with the Bengals. Like, on one end, I do understand there's so many players that have to get the ball. Like, I'm looking at the Chargers. I'm like, throw to Austin Eckler in the flat, get a ball to Kelly, catch Hunter Henry. Keenan Allen making big plays at the end of the game. Mike Williams, pretty much one pick. You know what I'm saying? It's not that much. The good coaches should be able to take all of these weapons. I've never seen this before, honestly. I'm not just jacking my own stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a deep-ass wide receiver core. Higgins would start for the Chargers and eat. Higgins would have had 100 yards for the Chargers today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and he can't get a target.
Yeah, that was kind of
like that's not an over exaggeration to me. Look at the rookies out there today. Ruggs, all these dudes that they're all getting shots. And I know we have a lot of weapons in place, so everybody can't get the ball, but that's unacceptable. On your depth chart, I don't care if he's not feeling good about the plays or whatever. Playmakers make plays, bro. Like, stop being so analytical. Stop being so practice oriented and stuff like that. There are some people that are going to just ball out when Joe Burrow's in crunch time and then the drive started. Y'all should go to my live. I said this is why you draft them number one. You can't script this. Ain't nothing in practice is going to show you what is about to happen on this drive. And there's not a man that can stop it. And when they threw it up to AJ Green before they got the ball, I said, there's not one person in this world that can stop AJ Green from coming down with this ball. That's just the way it goes sometimes. And coaches got to be able to understand that. Higgins is a dog. Put him out there. They're scared to death of him. You're making it easy for them to give them a above average guy, Mike Thomas. Like, that's the last person on the depth chart.
Right. I think
I don't care what he showed me in practice.
One thing that you said is like anybody else around the NFL would have played him. I look at Andy Reid, Clyde Edwards-Helaire came out ball. You even look at the Ravens today. Dobbins is in there making plays. Like, if we had Andy Reid, there's no way that T. Higgins isn't getting targeted in that game. Like, and he has to be more involved. Like, I know some people want to say, hey, let's stop and hope that we can develop this team. This team is good enough to go out and compete right now. They have enough weapons. They're great on defense. They went out and did what they needed to do in free agency. Like Zim said, even with the end of the game, This team is ready to win now. You drafted Joe Burrow. You threw him out the very first game. He showed you in his first game that he's ready now. And AJ himself after the game said that this team is special. Think about all the teams that AJ Green has been on since 2011. He said that this team is special. The last time we heard that, 2015. So for me, this Bengals team, based on what just happened, from what we've seen today, Thursday is going to tell us a lot about this team. Like, we're getting the Browns on a short week. They just got blown out. Baker Mayfield did not look good. Baker Mayfield could possibly be beat by Joe Burrow. I feel like Joe Burrow can be better than Baker Mayfield. I ain't trying to make no hot takes or anything like that. I'm just saying from what I saw today, Joe Burrow can be better than Baker Mayfield. Zim has been saying this for years. Look at the quarterbacks. Look at the matchups. Who's better? If you are, after what you just saw, before we couldn't say it, right? Joe Burrow never took a snap, this and that. That was college. And he showed you today. He is ready to go in and win a game at the end of the game. And in order for this team to get on the track, we got to get a W on Thursday. There's no way around it for me.
Look at the Charger. If you're a Charger, it was a Charger guy in here. I want to talk to you. If you're optimistic about your season, don't. As long as Tyrod Taylor is your quarterback, I done went through 8 years with a guy that looked just like that. Your best bet is to get Herbert in there right now, because when it was time for Tyrod to win that game, he couldn't. And when it was 4th and 1, the coach didn't even trust him to go get that 1 yard. That's your season right there, determining week 1. A lot could be said about our season as well, already, like based on the mistakes that I just saw just now. And I just hope I was so confident on Zach coming into this game. Like, as far as like what they're doing, key take. AJ Green said the team is special. Now, he's not going to say anything about the coaching staff, of course, whatever. I just wonder, is the coaching staff special? You know what I mean?
I think
because the team could be special all you want.
Let's say Lou is, but Zach and that offense, like you said, like if the way that they play, if the offense would have been giving them the same thing, that game is a blowout. Like we dropping 30. We easily dropped 30 if the offense would have been there to play and did what they needed to do. We can't depend on the defense, like Zim said. Like, that's not realistic. And hopefully that's going to change next game. We need to get up, get a lead, and try to score 30 points. How long has it been since we scored 30 points? I don't have the direct stats in front of me. I'm sure they did it at one point last year when we tried to get one win. I don't want another season of struggling to get the 30 points. I really don't. Like, if we can get 28, 30 or something like that, I'm down with that. This team needs to get into gear and go, because we're ready to compete now. I'm not waiting for 2022. I'm not waiting for 2021. I want to win right now. And if y'all ready to win, let me know in the comments. But this has been the Orange is the New Black podcast. Stay tuned. We have something coming in the near future. Be sure to keep your eyes out for it with Tuesday. us. Maybe Tuesday, especially with us having a short week. We may be coming to you guys Tuesday with a possible surprise. Stay tuned.
You're underselling it.
Stay tuned.
Listen, this is the biggest thing you guys have ever seen. This is what's going to make the reason why you're in here with Ace and you follow him or whatever is because you understand. You follow
Zim too. It ain't just me. It's Zim too.
But both of us. But the reason why y'all believe in Ace is because you understood his knowledge on football and everything like that. What if I told you we got a big surprise, and I'm praying to God that this happens on Tuesday, but he is underselling it. This is the biggest thing. There is nobody else that could bring you this. There's not
nobody that can
one
bring you
other
this.
Page, fan, or anybody that can bring this to you on Tuesday. So I've gotten verbal commitment for Tuesday, and I'm really hoping we can bring this to you, because I really think it is something that you all deserve, and we all deserve some wins. So Definitely. Let's start with this win that I'm hoping for on Tuesday around 7-ish, 8 o'clock p.m.-ish time, hopefully. And if so, we're going to carry that on to our victory on Thursday night.
Facts. Right? Do not be late. Do not miss it. Don't be 5 minutes, 10 minutes late. We can't say what it is, but it's big. It's major. Like,
The
here.
biggest
Don't
thing
miss
I've
it.
ever done.
Don't miss it. Even if you at work, you might want to tell your boss that you got to step away for 15, 20 minutes. It's coming. Tuesday. Lock it in. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to follow Zim on Instagram at Zim_Hude. Be sure to check out his lot, bro. I was in there earlier. It was jumping. If you want to converse with Bengals fans, you want to see the game and stuff like that, definitely jump over to his live. You guys can find us on Twitter. You find him at Zimhude. You find me at New Stripe City. And you guys know that you can find me here as well. But this is the Orange is the New Black podcast. This is a new season. It's a new era. And be sure to come back Tuesday. Like hashtag Tuesday. Hashtag that. Hashtag that. Be sure to be on the lookout. Make sure you follow on our Twitters, IG, and all of that. Tell everybody that you know that's a Bengals fan to follow Zim's Twitter and follow his IG at Zim_Hude, because we're going to probably make some announcements on Tuesday about what it is. But make sure you do not miss it. Hude.